Good morning, everybody, or good evening for me. Good early morning for Victor here. It's 1 a.m. In Sweden right now.
Yeah, that's
Nor-
correct.
N- Norway.
Norway.
Sorry,
But yeah.
we just had this conversation too, and I just messed it up anyway. I'm so sorry, man. All right. Well, Victor here is kind of one of the two torchbearers of the entire Grey Knight faction right now because only you and Chase have managed to secure a GT win in the 12 weeks since the data slate has dropped. And I think before the data slate, we only had David Timms, get us a GT win before that. So we're
No, he only got
sitting.
second place.
Oh, we got second? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Damn.
So mine is actually the first, just in 10th.
Oh man, that's even worse. I was trying to like
Yeah.
make us feel better, but all right. Well,
No.
not everybody can be Eldari and have like 67 major wins in the last, since 10th drop, but um how's that feel, man? How's it feel like knowing that there are thousands of players out there that are holding you up on like a pedestal right now, including myself? No
I
pressure.
mean, uh, looking at things like Reddit and Discord things, I feel like it's 50-50. Some people are really happy and some people complain because they won. Because now they fear that we won't get any buffs in the data slate.
if if there's one thing I know about the Warhammer community, it's they'll complain anyway. I'm sure people
Yeah.
playing Eldari think that they didn't deserve the nerfs that they got. So
I mean, people are always going to complain. But it
exactly.
obviously feels super good to win.
Yeah.
Uh, I didn't plan on winning. My goal was going 4-1 at the GT.
I mean, those are still solid numbers at any GT, so
Yeah, but
uh,
I I shouldn't be able to do that. And then just happens to be that I dodged a bad matchup and won.
oh, okay.
That's
We'll
sometimes all
get
it
into
takes.
that. Yeah. The old path uh to victory, right?
Yeah.
All right. So as is customary on my show when I have a new guest on, I want to ask you just real quick, like how long you've been playing Warhammer or like tabletop war games, and then why did you choose Grey Knights?
Uh, so I've been playing. I got into hobby when I was 8, I think,
Nice,
because my uncle had war models, and I thought it was
nice,
so cool that my father got me some. But I started playing like tournaments, GTs and such when I was 12,
fantastic.
and been playing ever since. And on and off with how competitive. I've had times where I've only played like 2 or 3 GTs in a year, and basically no training matches in between. Uh, it's usually gone okay.
It's called
Uh,
confidence.
yeah, exactly. I just I like theorizing a lot about Warhammer. Sometimes I don't get it on the table. Uh, and then now recently I started playing a lot more, and actually, I just took me realizing that I can actually play Warhammer in Norway because I made a move from Sweden to Norway like 2 years
Oh,
ago,
okay. All right, all right.
and I was super active in Sweden because I lived in Umeå, which is a super big Warhammer town.
Cool. That's
So it
awesome, man.
was people to play with every day if I wanted to, and we had like a ton of tournaments and such. And then I moved into Norway, out to the middle of nowhere, like the edge of the world, and there's no one who's ever heard about Warhammer. Uh, so I basically, like every time I want to play Warhammer, I had to fly to Sweden to play,
Got it.
and then I realized I could just play inside Norway instead, and of course TTS
I was
helped a lot.
just gonna ask you that. Yeah, I
Yeah,
was
I mean,
gonna say I bet you're a TTS master by now.
yeah, I played a lot of TTS. It's the only way I can play with my friends right now, so
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a really fantastic tool for just getting in lots of uh of reps. It's clunky. It's not a replacement for like a real game, but
No,
it's better than nothing for sure.
yeah, and it grows on you. I really hated it at first, but it's get better. But nothing beats the feeling of actually putting your models on the table.
100% agree.
And your second question, I've been playing Grey Knights since they were in the Demon Hunter Codex.
All right. So fourth, is
Then
that fourth edition or fifth edition?
Yeah, that's fourth edition is when I started with them. Then I used them in fifth as well. And then I always like used to ally in my Grey Knights with like Imperial Guard and such.
Man,
And then they got an actual codex, and I just have always like mained them since then. I still play other factions as well, but
nice.
it's my
It-
one true.
I got into the hobby during COVID or right before,
Yeah.
and a buddy of mine sold me his old Grey Knight army, and yeah, they're kind of my ride or die as well. Like I always want them to be better, you know, like or be better at them, you know.
It's like every edition I have a Grey Knight phase where I just try to make them work.
Yeah.
Like make sure I win like a tournament with them, and then I'm usually happy. And then I can go and
that's a hell
like
of a
play
bar,
something
dude.
else. Because like in the beginning of 10th, I played mostly just Gene Stealer cults because they were super good.
They were super good.
And I was waiting for like the Tyranid Codex because that's one of my other factions. And Grey Knights were not in the best place in the beginning of 10th.
So expensive.
Yeah.
So expensive.
And then the Banner Slate dropped, and it was also happened to be that it was the only army I had in Norway.
Oh,
so I didn't have much of a choice.
Physically, you also okay. I got that.
Yeah, it was a lot easier to tell my father to pack all my Grey Knight stuff and send them over than to pack all my Gene Stealer cult stuff and send them over.
I got you.
So
I got it.
You know, it was. I love playing Grey Knights, but it was also out of convenience.
Yeah. Well, we're glad you did because, like I said, you're pretty much like the guy now. So, I want to get into the nitty gritty now. Folks have I set up a spreadsheet or a form that people could send in questions before the interview in case they weren't able to actually make it. Nearly every single question on there is about your list. So we're gonna go right into that. I know that's what everybody's waiting for anyway. So we're gonna go over the list just really quick in like quickly in overview, and then we're gonna get into it like nitty gritty. So we're seeing one of the things that I immediately saw, like we're seeing paladins now in a lot of tournament lists. Usually they're led by a librarian. You opted to have a grandmaster in there. You put your librarian in with your Terminator squads, your smaller Terminator squads, and then you put Kaldor in with your 10-man Terminator squad. So that's another thing, is the first thing that jumped out when I read this list is I was like, where the hell are his units? And then I realized, oh, one of these Terminator squads is a 10-man. And then, it's pretty common to see 10-man Paladin squads right now. Yeah. So that didn't surprise me. And then, I mean, that's, and then the ubiquitous must-have strike squad because sticky and the scout move is amazing. And then two up power armor is a lot better than 3-up power armor. Who knew? And then you have a Calidus and then 4 Imperial henchmen. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 units total.
7 units.
For 1995 total points. That's not a lot of units, my dude. That's clearly, but like that's like Custodes like level of and like total models is what you're looking at, like 45 to 50 models, maybe
around 45.
Yeah, so it's not even that many models. So let's just start right at the top. I have it up on the stream right now for anybody listening. I'm sure you know this list by heart by now. I noticed that you have 2 librarians, right? which we already
Mhm.
said you sticking with your 5-man Terminator squads. Tell me about the librarian.
I mean, you need to have them.
Yeah.
Uh, I think the only question in a list should be if you have 2 or 3 of them.
Mhm.
Like I can definitely make the case in a lot of lists to have 3 librarians. I'm running a similar list to this in a team league, where I just swap off the Grandmaster for a 3rd librarian.
Mhm.
And I mean, they're just consistent damage.
An average
Consistent
of
range
4.
damage. Yeah,
Yep.
average 4 mortal wounds.
Each. Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes they spike, and it's glorious, and sometimes they kill a friend or two, and you lose a game for it. But that happens.
Well, yeah, you know, it
Uh,
is a dice game, right?
yeah, but I just love them for the fact that I can still do an action and use it. So I can drop down the unit and do investigate or do homers and still get out the mortal wounds from the Libby. Maybe snipe a character or a lone op or something.
Yeah, you can still
Just
do
the
it
other.
in. Yeah, so actually,
Yeah,
let's talk about that thing that you just said. Right at the end there. So this is an arranged attack. It is an
no,
ability, which
yeah,
means you can target lone op characters outside of 12 inches. Just for anybody
of
who
course.
didn't know that. Like,
Yeah,
when I learned that and I actually ran through the logic in my head, I'm like, holy shit, right? Like, because lone op is so strong in this edition. I mean, it's not like it was in ninth, but you know what I mean. Like, lone op is such a strong ability. That's why every single Space Marine is running around with that Primaris lieutenant right now, right? Like, it's just too
yeah,
strong. You can't leave it at home. I mean, the Calidus has it, so
yeah.
right?
Keldus
Yeah.
needs a bunch of them, and of course the Autarch for Eldar.
Hmm.
Every list has one.
Yeah.
You drop down a Libby close to them, and they basically forces them to use Phantasm on their lone up instead of using it on their like Brave Guards or something.
Yeah, which is definitely not where they want to be using it.
Oh, um, so they're just a great piece. They're
Yeah.
also fantastic because it's not a ranged attack. You can still use it while you're in engagement. Uh, so I can be in combat with something. A lot of time with Grey Knights, you're gonna leave a like a vehicle you're in combat with on like 3 to 4 wounds because you're not good enough to kill them.
Oh man.
Which means that you can just then shoot your way out with the Vortex of Doom, and then you can still charge something else.
Which I'm not gonna say no to. And
No,
the all right.
it's it's something that the opponent doesn't always consider either. They think that you have them, that you are locked in combat, and then you just do some mortals. Maybe you're all a bit higher than you should, and suddenly they have a
I,
5-man Termit unit charging their backlines that they didn't want.
beautiful. All right. We know the librarians. They're great. They've been great this whole edition. They've been the one thing that I think everybody got right when the edition hit was like you're gonna want to bring like at least 2 to 3 librarians in every list. I think we all got that right. Now the Grandmaster on foot. Still,
Yes.
there is a lot of contention about this unit because I think we all know that it was a rules miss when the codex hit that it's once per battle that we can use the 0 CP thing instead of once per battle round. Like that
Yeah.
seems just like a typo to me. I think everybody,
Mm-hmm.
but the tournament you went to did not agree with that, right? They went with rules as written,
Yeah. I
correct?
mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
which is
That
whatever.
just
I,
yeah. Everyone has just now agreed to that.
yes,
It is how it's written. It is once per battle.
yeah,
Uh,
right.
Fine.
I'm only mentioning that to set the groundwork here. I'm not
Yeah.
trying to blow anybody's mind with this. But you went to a tournament where they went with the WTC ruling for how the ignoring modifiers to
Yeah,
a
and
unit's characteristic works, right?
yeah, and that's the important part.
Right. So for those of you or for those of for those listening who may not know, could you explain the WTC ruling versus the ITC and the FLG and the Games Workshop rulings for that?
Yeah. Okay. So the WTC ruling that we were using uh, means that if you ignore modifiers, it also comes to your weapons, uh, which means that you ignore basically everything, like minus the hits, minus the wound, minus damage. You ignore armor contempt because that's a modifier to your AP, and then of course you also ignore minus movement and stuff that is actual characteristics,
Right. Which is
uh, which is super
huge.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Uh, the controversy with it is that during the World Championship, they released a FAQ for that event specific, where they ruled it as just being modifiers to the characteristics of the model. So just things like your movement, your
Okay.
toughness, strength, and things like that.
Okay. So just the attributes at the top of the data sheet,
Yeah,
basically. Oh wow. Okay.
and
So it wouldn't even
that's
ignore
makes
like
it
-1 to wound at that point.
no, it wouldn't ignore anything that has with the weapons to do
Okay.
because uh, because how it's worded, it's just
Yeah.
your model's not shooting, it's your weapon shooting,
Right.
and your
It's just
weapon is maybe part of your model or maybe not.
well, mine are
Uh,
glued on there. I don't know about you.
yeah, yeah. Uh, and the thing is, it was a ruling for an event, which is means it's not official. Uh, they could have done it official. I don't know
Yeah.
why GW didn't just release it as an official thing. But it didn't, so then WC is still sticking with their rulings
Right.
until I'm guessing January when we get the balance data slate.
So we all have a ton of questions about how that might go. And in fact, one of the questions I got is, what would you like them to do? And I'll get to that later because that's an entirely different topic.
Yeah,
But I wanted to specifically point that out to people because the Grandmaster on foot, I think, is a unit that we all want to be good. But depending on where you're playing and what format you're playing in, it is either really good or like from a competitive standpoint, leave it at home. Those are your two options, right? So for you specifically, the Grandmaster was basically super powered compared to the normal rulings. So that's why he took him, and you put him in with the Paladins all the time, right?
he goes with the pallets,
Yeah.
and that's because I want the Psy Cannons to be able to do something.
To hit on twos
Because
all
when
the
you
time.
have when you have 18 Psy Cannon shots hitting on twos all the time, and you don't ignore any minus two wounds, and you do ignore every like minus wound and minus damage and stuff like that, you actually become a threat. It's a pretty good unit to like threaten Avatar or the Incarnate, things like that. That has minus two wounds.
Man.
Because 18 shots is still a lot,
Yeah.
and just roll a few bad saves, and suddenly you take a lot of damage.
So does that mean that the Grandmaster also just makes his whole unit ignore cover all the time too?
No, not
Okay.
cover,
I didn't
because that's not a
because
modifier.
that's modifying the armor save of the defending unit, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Just
Yeah.
just making that clear.
So cover is still a thing, and you always get cover in 10th, basically.
Yeah. You
Uh,
got it. You really messed up if you're not getting cover in 10th.
yeah. Now, of course, Grey Knights are probably one of the factions that has it easier to remove cover because we can actually position ourselves where we want to.
Mm.
Uh, but most enemies will still get cover, so they will probably have like a 3-up save against it. But
I was
sometimes they're all bad.
I was gonna say it is good because our side cannons are only -1 AP, so which is
Yeah.
effectively AP 0 in this edition. Yeah.
But the same, of course, goes for when you get into combat with them. Uh, you know you're actually gonna have AP2 with the 2 damage.
Yeah, which is
And going through things like Armor Contempt means that you actually get killy. The main reason the Grandmaster is in the list and I like him so much is to be able to deal with things like Redemptors.
yep.
Because Grey Knights can't kill a Redemptor.
No, I think I
Only,
did. I think I did the math once on Unit Crunch. You know, they and it does
yeah,
10,000 like simulations. And Drago with the 10-man Terminator blob charging a Redemptor kills it like 50% of the time or something. That's how bad it is. It's like 50 or like 75. It's just enough where you can't trust it to do it, you know?
no,
And that's not counting swinging one way or the other. That's just like over 10,000 simulations, like 70% of the time you can kill one Redemptor. And they're in every Space Marine list right now because they're still
yeah,
really good. They were great in 8th, they're great in 9th, and they're still great in 10th. Yeah.
and the Grandmaster just makes it so that that unit actually dies.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to get Arm Contempt, because you ignore that. So
Yep.
they're actually having just a 4-up save, and you're actually going to do 2 damage each.
I'm gonna
And
take
then
a
you also get
moment.
the.
Oh,
Yeah.
so
No, I was just going to say
yeah.
the final part about the
Go ahead.
Grandmaster.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned in the beginning, we do still get 1 free Radiant Strike
Yep.
each battle. It's basically the only thing we can spend it on.
Yep.
So on your go turn, you can pop Radiant Strike to get Devastating Wounds. It might make a difference, usually doesn't, because you don't charge into. Like 10 Paladins are still 10 Paladins, they hit hard.
Yeah.
If you charge into another unit of tournaments or something, then it might matter. Most of the time, you're gonna kill anything anyways. But
Yeah.
it can be as a nice safety thing.
On the Grandmaster, you have Sigil of Exigence.
Yep.
So that's an amazing enhancement. It's what, 20 points? 25 points?
No, it's 30.
Is it?
30 or
Oh wow.
45.
Ooh,
Yeah, it's
okay.
expensive. Yeah, it's 30 points.
Okay. Well, that does mean that if you're looking at trying to pilot Victor's list here, you can drop the Grandmaster and Sigil for a Librarian and away, and like pretty much away you go.
No, the Librarian is just 100 points.
Yeah, right.
So
But but uh, but you're 5 under, so
yeah, so
you're like yeah,
I can just exchange the Grandmaster for a Librarian with
yeah,
Sigil, and we're fine.
exactly 100 points, yeah. Or
Yeah,
exactly 2,000 points. Yeah.
yeah. And
So
if you do that, I would suggest exchanging the Psych Cannons to Incinerators on the Paladins, and that's the only change I would make.
nice. All right. So Kaldor Drago, put him in with your 10-man. This is another thing I think we got, probably the second and the only other thing we got right when the index hit. Put Drago in with a 10-man, charge something with a +3 out of Deep Strike or teleport, assault, and splatter them, hopefully. So I think the math for a 6-inch charge with a reroll, it's like an 80% chance to get stuck in.
Yeah,
Think that's right. Might be 75.
yeah,
Anyway.
something like that. But it's also the charge you fail the most, I think.
Yeah. There's on my Discord channel, a bunch of my Grey Knight friends and I were all talking about how many times Drago's let us down, even with +3 to charge.
Yeah.
And for some reason, it's Drago, but like the strike squad with 2 guys left that need to make an 11-inch, like they'll do it. But Drago with a +3 to charge can't.
No, I've lost so many games because Strago has just decided not to charge.
It's all of
And
the warp dust, I think.
yeah, and suddenly just guess I'm standing here in the open with 2 Force Winds looking at me, and then you're dead.
Yeah.
But no, Drago is amazing. He should be in every list. If you don't have Drago in your Grey Knight list, something is wrong. He's cheap. I wish he hit harder.
I do too.
I want him to be actually dangerous.
What does the
Uh,
scourging even do? I'm gonna look that up real quick.
it's just 3 shots, strength 6, AP 2, 2 damage.
Okay. So
Anti-demon 2 plus.
I mean, so like that works into the avatar of Cain and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
there's not a whole lot out there with the demon keyword that's hitting top tables at a tournament right now, right?
No, I mean it's Avatar, the Incarn, of course the entire Demon Codex, but then it's also
Right.
Obliterators and Forge Fiends,
Oh,
and that's actually really helpful.
Forge Fiends are demons? Oh.
Yeah, Forge Fiends are demons.
Because I know
Drago slaps Forge Fiends.
like in ninth, I know that like the demon engines, I don't think they had the demon keyword or something. There was something weird about them then. Like their vehicles, and we know that
Yeah.
they're powered by a demon, but they don't have the demon keyword. It was very bizarre. Although I might be misremembering too. I'm not actually good at this game. I just have a microphone and a video camera, and I ask people to talk to me.
No, but in this edition at least they are demons, so
Fantastic.
that's something. Now the Chaos mashup is still bad.
Yeah,
That just makes it a little bit less bad.
so CSM is still real tough.
Yeah.
We'll get into that in a bit. So 10-man Terminator squad with Drago, like we just said.
Yeah.
The Narthesium is amazing. You have the incinerators on these guys. The Ancient's Banner is amazing. Like this is really the only way we can score primary is by bullying people with huge amounts of OC and regenerating Terminators. Like that's it. We can't really do it by like killing you if you're on the objective. We have to do it by hurting you a little bit and then having more OC than you do. Right?
Yeah. I mean, in some matchup, that's definitely the case.
Yeah. Knights, looking at you, Knights.
Yeah. Then you just put 30 OC on the objective and say, do something.
Come
and
at
hopefully they don't.
Yeah.
But
I mean, not a lot to say here. They're an incredible unit. They're our most punchy. Like paladins are tankier with the -1 to be wounded, but then the Terminators have lethal hits on the charge, which is just incredible. Also, they got an extra attack this edition, which I'm not gonna say no to. So it used to be Paladins had one more attack than Terminators, and now Terminators also have 4. So like that's great. Not gonna say no. Then we have basically the same thing. We have 2 5-man Terminator squads. These are what you stick your librarian in. So these are what you're going to be moving around the board to get a lot of actions done, like behind enemy lines or cleanse and things like that, right? I know I'm skipping through the troops kind of fast, but I think that we're all very familiar with them. So if you had a particular tech choice and I'm kind of blasting past it, please just stop me.
yeah, I mean, I think most people are, as you said, familiar with this type of list.
Yeah. Speaking of which, now is an excellent time. Guys, we do this live so that you can ask us questions. You can interact with us in chat. I haven't seen almost any movement in chat, and that's making me kind of sad. Usually chat's pretty lively. So if you have any questions for Victor or for me for some reason, but we're here for Victor, go ahead and throw your questions in there. All right. So now you got that strike squad. So I was curious why you took 1, and I think it's just because of the Calidus. Because I find it very hard personally to make lists without at least 2 strike squads in them. And again, I'm bad. Like I claw and scratch my way to the mid tables. So like, you're clearly better than I am. But why only 1?
Yeah, so that is probably one of like the tougher decisions. Like what to do with. Like I think I have a base with this list that is like 1,700 points, and then it's just finding like the last pieces what I'm gonna do with them.
Yeah.
Like I run a similar list where I had like Crow in the list with his purifiers, and I tried double strikes and not having the henchman and the Kaldus. But I just love the Kaldus. She does so
Yeah.
much for the list.
Yeah.
She's basically a Grey Knight.
I'm sad that she's so late in the list. You know what? Let's just talk about her now. We can just skip her later.
Yeah, I mean, she's still relevant when it comes to the troop choices because she does a similar job to what my strikes, a second strike squad would do.
Yeah.
Like,
But that lone op means you can drop her down and where you couldn't drop another unit,
yeah,
like in front of a 30 inches away from like one of the big knights or something, and she's just standing in the open. You don't care. She's safe.
no,
Yeah.
I mean, I usually when I deploy her, I always deploy her so that she can walk onto an objective, and so that she can also do uh, signals if I get that turn one.
That's really smart.
Yeah, and I can't really do the same thing with strikes all the time without putting them in danger.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes the objectives are out in the open. But because I'm alone up, I can just touch the objective in one corner, and most armies can't deal with it. And the armies that can actually go there usually don't want to spend that resources to deal with a Kaldis. So most of the games, she doesn't really do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't kill anything with her.
Yeah.
Like, I know she has a gun and she has a sword.
I mean, the Vect is amazing. The lone op is amazing. The maneuverability is amazing. So that's what you're bringing her for. She's not that killy anyway, is she? Like,
No, I mean, she has a pretty good flamer.
Mm-hmm.
I have killed. It's a flame with precision.
Yeah.
And infantry 2+. So I have sniped out a lot of characters with it. I have killed Abaddon with it. Of course, Abaddon was on 1 wound already.
Yeah, I mean, you're not gonna one shot Abaddon with it, but that's funny.
Try to kill him in combat with precision, left in 1 wound. Abaddon moved. I overwatched with the Kaldis. Abaddon died.
You'll take it.
Yeah, so she can kill some things. She can
Yeah.
still she will kill a unit of like swooping hawks or something if they try to come after her.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, granted that they don't just whiff the Overwatch and they shoot you back, because then she also dies.
Yep, that's fair. She's pretty squishy.
Yeah.
But the tools that you brings to the table fill a hole that are hard to fill with the strike squad. Is effectively.
Yeah.
Like the Vect is incredible. We don't have any access to a Vect except for her. So,
And in some games, Vect is super duper good. Some games it doesn't matter at all.
Yeah.
Because they don't have any good battle tactics, and armies like Sisters, for example, they don't use command rerolls either.
Which you fought twice. So yeah. I still think it's funny that you can use it on command rerolls, because in 9th, some armies had that. Like I think it was Drukhari, and it specifically said like you can't use it on the command reroll strategy.
Yeah.
But here we are. All right, and then you have just 4 lackeys who sit around. I know we talked briefly. You kind of want to bring them in a 10-man with an Inquisitor or with Greyfax specifically, or with Cortez, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
to get CP.
Yeah, and then the -1 to be wounded, like, yeah. But they're basically just there to be action monkeys and string, like hold your backfield more or less.
Yeah, I mean, most of the time they will be in reserve, and I will bring them on when I need them for like a gauge or behind enemy lines or something like that.
Got it. Okay. And then they just die.
Of course they just die immediately. And if they are not needed for something like that, I will just bring them in to hold an objective.
Got it.
Then at least force the opponent to commit to them.
Yeah. So kind of how like in ninth edition we were using like servitors. We would use
Yeah.
them to like string out, hold a backfield, or yeah, they were chaff except for like raising banners and stuff like that. Yeah.
And if the enemy has deep strikes on their own, I can just deploy them on the table and screen with them.
Yeah. All right. So Dennis in the chat, he said the list looks pretty standard, which is not incorrect. You did make a couple tech choices that I don't see in standard lists. One of those being the Grandmaster on foot, and then like we just said, you forgo the second strike squad for the Calidus and the henchmen, and then maybe you don't bring first into the fray, and there you go. So he's saying, what were you doing differently that led you take the trophy? I think now is a good time to talk about the dodge that you mentioned at the very beginning. So that was probably your worst matchup, and you luckily didn't have to fight it.
Yeah. So going into the tournament, I basically knew I only had like 3 or 4 bad matchups out of all the players.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
Oh, the
and that
players
was
or the armies? Or both?
players and armies.
Okay.
Like sometimes they can be a matchup that is bad, but you're a better player,
Mm-hmm.
then you can still take it. Now, granted, as I said in the beginning, I'm not that familiar with the Norwegian scene yet.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I would just see a name and I would be like, I don't know, this could be a super good player or it could be a complete beginner.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew the Norwegian WTC guys, and there were a lot of them there. And I think there was 3 good Chaos Space Marines players. I didn't want to face any of them. And then there was 1 Black Templars with the Redeemer and like 2 or 3 Redemptors that I was also hoping not to face.
Yeah, that's Black Templar can be a real bitch of a mashup for us
Yeah.
if they want to be. Yeah.
But other than that, the like local meta was not that dangerous for Grey Knights.
Okay.
Like the Chaos Knight race has not reached Norway.
Okay. Yeah, we had a lot of those at one of the last tournaments here last weekend. We had I think in the top 10, 5 of them were Chaos Knight players or something.
Yeah, I mean, I was at a GT just a month before in Sweden, and faced 2 Chaos Space Marines, Chaos Knights, I mean.
Yeah.
So I went 3-1-1 because I ran into 2 Chaos Knights.
Yeah, they're hard for us to do anything.
Yeah, it's just too many high toughness wounds.
Yep.
So I was pretty happy with my choice of army, seeing that it wasn't that many rough matchups.
Yeah. I mean, nobody's gonna tech into one of the bottom 5 armies in the
No, of course.
in the meta. Like nobody builds a list and says, "What do I do against Grey Knights?"
No. And there was a lot of Eldar players as well at the event,
Mm-hmm.
which is super good if you're a Grey Knight. And also, basically every other faction is either a good matchup or a at least winnable matchup. So all I was hoping for was just that the Chaos Space Marines players would lose a round at some point, or at least not get paired into me.
Luck's a part of it, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Like I know some folks are probably gonna listen to this later and be like, "Oh, he just got lucky," and like that's part of it.
Yeah, I mean,
like
almost every army has some batch matchups,
mm-hmm.
and in order to win, you either had to outplay them or outluck them.
Yeah. Or both.
Yeah, you can do both as well.
I'm going to take some questions from the feedback form that I threw up before this interview started. So Adam would like you to break down each unit choice. We just went over that. Why they were chosen and what synergies informed it. I think we just went over that as well. And then how do you use each unit against different enemy archetypes? So I think this pairs in really well with another question is, do you generally play aggressively or passively? Or is it matchup dependent?
That is very matchup dependent.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to look at the enemy army and figure out if they can kill you or not.
Right.
Like, can they deal with a 10-man Paladin or Terminator unit standing on objective? If the answer is yes, they can deal with it in a turn, then don't play aggressive.
It's
Uh,
I know
then
I
you
know
have to play
that's
more cagey.
I know that sounds like a dumb question. The reason I ask it is like one of my biggest um personal deficiencies in my skill set, and even though I know this, I still do it, is I want to go turn. I should really play orcs, is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Like, I want to go. And I want, like, I've been a min-maxer in, like, D&D and playing World of Warcraft and stuff, so I don't ever want downtime where, like, my guy or my units aren't doing something, even though I know that's the smart thing to do. So, this is a difference between, like, a mid-level player and like a good player, right? Is you can read the board state, you can see what the units do, you know exactly how your army works, and I'm like, ha ha, kill stuff, roll dice, right? I should really play orcs.
yeah, uh,
but here we are.
yeah. But it's a good thing about you mentioning like the go turn, because I think Grey Knights, they don't really have the same go turn. Even though
Right.
I sometimes start, with things in reserve, and like Drago coming in could be a go turn. But sometimes it's just not a good fit for him to actually come down on turn 2 and do
Mm-hmm.
something. And then I just have to chill, and then I just score some easy secondaries, and I take my 1 or 2 primaries, and basically wait out the game until I feel confident that I can actually gain value from my units. And
So
that's especially important when it is against a killy faction.
so you use patience.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Like,
My wife is
you have to
is in the
play a
other
bit.
room, probably laughing at me saying that I don't have any patience because she
I
knows
mean,
it more than anyone.
that's unfortunately the Grey Knight way now. We're not as killy, so
No.
we need to actually play smart and realize that sometimes it's just not the correct thing. Even if
Mhm.
we have a good 6 in charge,
With a
we
reroll
just
already.
yeah. But if we don't gain any from it, like
Mhm.
if I don't gain primary or secondary points from it, maybe it's just better to wait next turn.
Yeah, I mean, I like to make fun of myself. Self-deprecating humor is my like chosen type, but I'm not that bad. Like I'm not a
No,
14-year-old with like anger issues. Always charging. But I always want to be watching my opponent scoop up models, and when I don't get to do that, sometimes it doesn't feel as good as when they do. But
no. I
I,
mean, it's
yeah,
definitely more fun to kill things.
for sure, for sure. World leaders, here I come. All right. So there's another. This is an excellent question. So Domi, I think it's Domi. They asked, what does your tree of logic playing this list look like? What does each unit do? Why you have it? And we went over that. But where are those units going on the board? What are you hoping that they're going to be doing? And how are you supporting the list with strats?
Okay. Uh,
Yeah, I know that was a lot, but like,
yeah.
yeah. And a lot of that is
So
going to be matchup dependent as well. But
yeah, but I can go over my like general game plan,
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
Please.
So this is basically like a hammer and anvil list, if you want to, with the paladins being the anvil and Drago being the hammer.
Mm-hmm.
Because every game I will have in Deep Strike I will have Drago and his 10-man unit, and I will have a 5-man unit with the Libby, and usually the henchmen. But they don't really matter. I'm gonna be honest, I forgot them in some games on the GT because they were under the table. They didn't matter. I won the games anyway.
Wow.
Uh, but so on the table, I will just have paladins, the strikes, a 5-man with a Libby, and the Caldas.
Mm-hmm.
I already went over and said I usually infiltrate the Caldas in a position where I can score secondaries with her. Because the biggest problem Grey Knights has is scoring points turn 1 if we go first.
Okay.
If we go second, it's no problems at all because we just pick up our models and we drop them down where we want them.
Yeah. Exactly where they have to be. Yep.
Yeah. But if we go first, because we don't have a lot of units and we're not that fast with Terminators, it's quite hard for us to score the simple things. So you always have to deploy in a way that you make sure that you can get at least 4 points on investigate signals, that you can get a small engage turn 1, that you can get things like secure no man's land or lens tempting target.
Mm-hmm.
So I always try to deploy so that I can get the most secondaries out of it as possible. Meaning the Kaldus will be on one side, and I will deploy my paladins on the other side for engage, because they're safe. I know they won't get killed, because either I will miss them or they will sigil if I need to.
Got it.
So they will usually, if I need to turn 1, just advance, either to get in a better position or to get an objective, score points. And sometimes I will use this CP to advance and shoot with them.
So that they
If
are
it's something,
eligible to shoot.
yeah, if I
Yeah.
need them to either be eligible to shoot or if I actually need them to shoot something.
Got it.
It is still a lot of side cannon shots, so they can kill small units, like small scoring scouts or something.
Mm-hmm. Scouts or that one ubiquitous interceptor or intercessor like squad that's in the backfield.
Yeah. And then the strikes are usually placed so that I can either scout them forward to get an objective in the no man's land sticky,
Mm-hmm.
or that I can scout them backwards and just stick my own objective and chill.
Yep.
Uh, the last 5-man squad of Terminators, they rarely do anything turn 1, but they have to be on the table because points wise.
Yeah. I gotcha.
So they usually just hide and then they pick up themselves at turn 1 anyways. And then what I always want to do with the list is score points and deny the enemy points.
Got it.
And it's really hard to explain that in general without going into matchups.
Yeah. Which we will do in a
Yeah,
little bit.
because I always play tactical with this list. So I
That
can't
seems
have,
very obvious.
yeah, I can't have too much
Yeah.
of game plan
Gotcha.
apart from reacting to weird enemies and, you know, just trying to score as much points as possible.
Got it. Martin is asking, was this GW terrain or player place? It seems like most tournaments these days are just using the GW layouts.
Yeah, It
Okay.
was GW-ish train.
If you have access to Best Coast pairings, I think you can get the player packet on there if you're really curious about exactly what player placements were used when.
Yeah.
Um,
But it's pretty standard
got it.
train.
And
Not
then
WC, but
got it.
GW.
One of the questions asked is, what would you change in your list?
Well, I guess I've already mentioned that.
Yeah.
The thing is like remove the Grandmaster for a Libby, change
It.
the side cannons to incinerators.
Yeah.
That's an
If
option, but I really like the Grandmaster,
got it.
so I don't know. I like this list.
It looks like. Like, come on. We have. We have access to, like, ninth was like how many interceptors and like how many dread knights. That's it. Two. Basically, we brought two like sheets. At least we're
Yeah.
bringing multiple sheets now, right? Like, which is an improvement. And
I mean, I would of course want to find points for an interceptor squad, because it's a good unit for scoring.
yeah,
But I just don't know where I'm gonna get it. It's once again I have to remove the Caldus and the Henchman, and I don't want to do that. So
I unfortunately have to take a little bit of an intermission. I'm gonna try to keep it short for a few minutes. I will be right back. I apologize to everybody. This is a problem with live streaming. I'll be right back. Hello, I'm back. Sorry about that, everybody. Life happens. So, let's see. We got a new question. Lastly, more and more fixed lists with behind enemy lines. DTH.
Oh, you teleport homers?
Thank you. I knew I was gonna feel like an idiot as soon as you said what it was, but I haven't seen it abbreviated very often. Those are coming up with good results. I think Dennis is speaking about like general tournament, like maybe Grey Knights that are going for one, are using a lot of fix like behind enemy lines or deploy teleport homers. What's your opinion on like maybe maybe for like a newer player to kind of remove some of those extraneous decisions? Like I love tactical. It's super fun to see a dynamic game like that. But like maybe you could streamline it more. Like, how do you feel about fixed versus tactical objectives?
So I would actually say it's kind of opposite. I think if you want to play fixed, you need to build a list to play fixed with Grey Knights. Because tactical just comes naturally with our army, because we
Yeah,
can do every single card.
we're so mobile.
Yeah, I think I know what Dennis is talking about. There has been some ideas circling around with using a tech marine with first to the fray.
That's
Uh,
exactly what he just posted
yeah,
into
and
chat.
I have
Yeah.
a bunch of characters and basically just drop down a character each turn and
Yeah,
do deploy homers and behind
got
enemy
it.
lines. Because 3-inch deep strike, it's
Really
pretty
good.
hard to screen all of that out.
Yeah, I think one of the questions specifically was like bringing Stern, and so Brother Captain Stern, for people who are unfamiliar, he's not that great or that different than a normal Brother Captain, except when he dies the first time, he pops back up at full wounds, I think, with a
Yeah.
2+ on one
I
die.
mean, he's
So
our foil gun.
yeah, so there's some shenanigans there to use him in his own unit by himself, kind of like you're using the Calidus in a way.
Yeah,
But I think that list also brings a Calidus as well as Stern, and then the two Tech Marines.
yeah.
Um,
I think the list I have seen seems a bit too extreme. I think you
mhm.
can definitely make it more standard, like include the first to the fray tech marine because he's quite important. But then you just build a pretty standard list. You can have Stern, sure, uh, but I don't think you need a second tech marine and starting that because in later turns you can always do uh, behind enemy lines and homers with basically any units in the game. Like, sure, they might be able to screen you out turn 1 or turn 2, but they're not going to be able to screen out a strike squad or something turn 3, 4, or 5.
Right.
I think it's an interesting list. I want to try it. I think it might be solid in teams
Mhm.
because you can just take a bad matchup and still score.
Yeah, it's like a. It's not really a tilt list. It's a list that's hard to stop from scoring. So
Yeah.
yeah, teams is
Uh,
interesting. I need to play teams. I still never have, but I really want to.
oh, it's so fun.
Yeah, that's what everybody
It's
says.
the
Like, this
best
is
way
the
of
way
playing
to
Warhammer.
play Warhammer.
Yeah.
Yep, bam, there it is.
Yep. I mean, it just is. You can
Beautiful.
just you dodge the bad matchups or you take the bad matchup for your team,
On
and then it
purpose,
feels
yeah.
good. Yeah.
Which means it's not a bad matchup. You're like
Oh,
you're doing
exactly.
exactly what you're supposed to be doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know
So fun.
I know technically the first Grey Knight win was in teams where Art of War won a big team tournament and Nick Nanavati piloted Grey Knights, I think, and
No,
they ended up
it
first.
was Jack.
Jack. Jack
Yeah.
Harpster, yeah. He has a love affair with Grey Knights. He's just trying to make them work.
Yeah. I mean,
So,
I,
oh,
I think his list is what definitely one of the inspirations for my list. I just didn't
Okay.
agree with his 3 Terminator bricks.
Yeah.
And separated them. But it's like the list everyone looks at.
Yeah. It's like, man, that's an interesting. I'm not gonna bring that up here, but like, you know how the meta. I mean, not in depth, but like the meta has changed so much from like 8th through 9th to now, and I'm bringing that up specifically because I started playing at the very end of 8th.
Yeah.
Like 8th, it was like kill more, or kill one, kill two, kill more, or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then 9th, it was hold one, hold two, hold more. Generally, I know that was not entirely accurate, but you know what I mean. But now it's like it's hold objectives and do these other things, right? And I know that there were obviously secondaries in 9th. It's just, you build your list so differently based on those, like the meta. Who's good in it? Are you good in it? Do you just need to be killy? Like in 8th, it was about making the most amazingly killy list you possibly could, right? Where maybe a Terminator brick with 3 like 10-mans would be amazing in that meta because it's hard to kill you and then you can kill things, right? But anyway,
Yeah.
I digress. Um, this is how my brain works. It's completely random. That's why I don't really schedule these very often, or very well. I do want to ask you before we get into your matchups, because I think this is big on everyone's mind right now. When you look at the Meta Watch articles, we all know there's a balanced data slate coming in like a month and a couple weeks. I think they said it in the Meta Watch. They said late January.
Yeah.
So whatever that means, we're looking at like 6 to 7 weeks probably for a data slate. If you also read that MetaWatch article, they feel very good about the fact that there are, from their perspective, they're almost everybody is in the 55 to 45% win rate, except I think it's Drukhari at 44 and Aeldari at 57 or something like that.
Yeah. Something like that.
That's their data. That's how they've crunched it. But how do you feel, or I guess this is 2 questions. How do you want the data slate to go for Grey Knights, and how do you think it will actually go for Grey
Oh.
Knights?
Should we start with the good or the bad news?
Yeah, well, I mean, because anybody listening to this has probably played at least one game of 10th, and with the widening of toughness, we now feel real bad going into anything over over T6, really. Let's be honest. Like, if you're rolling 5s to wound, it doesn't feel good. A lot of the stuff out there were like rolling 5s or 6s to wound on. So that's, I think, the primary problem people have with our faction right now. It's not how expensive we are. It's definitely not how mobile we are, because holy shit, we're super mobile. So with that in mind, how do you answer that question?
So what I want them to do is to make actual changes and not just points.
Right.
Because
I agree.
I want to play my army with just 7 units and 40 models. Like I'm playing Grey Knights. I don't want to play a horde army.
Yeah, for sure.
So like they will probably just reduce some points and internal balance, blah blah blah. But that's boring.
Yeah.
What I want is the first thing is the Nemesis Grandmaster
Okay.
Dread Knight.
Yep.
I want him to get his VS and BS back.
Yep.
Because that's still bullshit that he hits on 3s and 4s with a hammer.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a data sheet overlook.
Yeah, but I mean, it's been like now several times they could have changed it and they just haven't.
It's like what we talked about earlier with the Grandmaster. I still think that's a data slate overlook. They didn't mean it to be once a battle. They meant it to be once a battle round, or they meant everybody else's to also be once a battle. Either way, we got left behind.
Yeah. So I think he needs to get that back because hitting on 3s with the hammer with full rerolls into vehicles and monsters, then he's suddenly attractive.
Mm-hmm.
hitting a force is just so inconsistent. Also, his second ability that makes it so that it can only be 1 CP
Yeah,
to use a stratagem.
but there's
It
only
only
one
works on
stratagem. Yeah.
and you're never gonna use Radiant Strike on a model with 5 attacks.
Yeah.
So that could be changed as well.
Yeah.
Maybe
Especially
include that you
when
can use the other 2 CP strats as well.
you're especially not you're especially not gonna use Radiant Strike on the Grandmaster and Dread Knight when you're bringing a hammer right now, which means they're strength 14.
Yeah.
You know, like you don't need to hope that you get a couple wounds through and kill a model or something. Like you're
No, I
going to
mean,
be wounding on 2s into almost anything in the game right now. Like
yeah, and you're
or
definitely
3s at
gonna,
worst.
yeah, you want to use that CP for tank shock instead
Yeah.
because he's strength 14.
Hmm.
He's always gonna roll 16 dice then for tank
Hmm.
shock.
Which means by odds he will max out at 6 mortal wounds almost every single time.
Yeah. So like that's another thing. I love Dread Knights.
I do too.
Yeah, like in ninth I played the 4 Dread Knights plus Armigers list, and that was
You
super
sure you
fun.
don't want to play knights?
Yeah, I mean maybe.
Yeah. No, I
uh,
get you. I like them too. I know people hate the baby carrier, but I
oh
really
man,
like
they're
it.
so cool.
Yeah.
And fun to play with as well. So just make their weapons a bit better, a
Yeah.
bit more killy.
The
Uh,
the sword has a tragic profile, as do
yeah,
the fists. Like the fists, I think they could fix it by making it like twin linked, but the sword is just bad. Sword
yeah.
is bad. Feels so bad. What is it?
No,
Strength 5 minus 1 damage for the sweep. So it's
yeah,
literal. It's way worse than if the guy got out and swung his own like nemesis
yeah.
sword around. Yeah. Oh, it's so bad. Anyway.
And the same with like the shooting. It would be nice to actually have some good shooting, or
Strength
just
10
some
now and 3 damage
consistent.
now isn't horrible. Um, but the
No,
the the AP is pretty bad.
yeah. The problem is like, sure we have strength 8, but we have AP 1. Everyone has cover,
Yeah,
so it
exactly.
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And the silencers are just super bad, uh, which is also tragic.
Yeah. Uh,
Incinerators are fine. They're good.
they are good. I think we have some of the best flamers in the game. Like strength 6 minus 1 ignores cover obviously because it's
Yeah,
a flamer. Like you know, and we could theoretically put them on purgation squads and get astral aim and fire them through ruins
yeah,
or whatever and get free kills that way. Like that seems fun, but then it's yeah. All right. Anyway, sorry. Now we're just going down a wish list of things that we
yeah.
we want to see. What do you think will be in the balance data slate? Like, you think it'll just be like points, maybe, or they'll be like, hey, they're at a 47% win rate by our data, so they're in the sweet spot, so we're good. Is that what
Yeah,
you
I mean,
think?
I don't think it's gonna be big changes.
Yeah.
I still have hope that they will make the Grandmaster change because the Nemesis one, because
Yes.
that's a
Yeah.
big oversight. Uh, then I think it's probably some. They talked about doing internal balance, which probably just means that they want to raise the points of good units and lower the points of bad units. Uh,
Okay.
which
I
on
mean,
paper sounds good, but for factions that don't have a lot of builds, it's super bad.
yeah. I mean, it's you know, I would really hate to see our Terminators go up in price and then like
Yeah,
Interceptors go
that's what
down
I'm
because like yeah,
afraid of.
we only have like what 11 unique data slates or something, 14, and that's if you include the Grandmaster Dread Knight and the Dread Knight as their own data sheets. Like I think we only have like 11 or 14, but um,
But I'm also gonna be honest. I don't think I need a lot of changes for Grey Knights.
mhm.
Uh, I'd rather see changes to other armies. and
Yeah, that's fair.
some rules.
Some
Like
tuning.
yeah, like we talked about the Grandmaster only having once per battle free strat. I think free strats is a big problem in 10th.
I agree,
And a
and
lot
we're
of
all.
reasons why some of the top arms are top armies is because of free strats.
It gets worse though when you consider the fact that not only are they getting free strats, but a lot of armies have access to a unit or something that gives them CP. Like
Yeah,
Grots and Orks or Calgar and Ultramarines, like they just farm CP for you. And then you also have units, I don't think the Orks do, but Ultramarines have captains and that let them do free straps and stuff. So like
yeah,
that's like you get to have your cake, and eat it too, right? Like you're getting both where we don't get either really. We get
nope,
one. So
yeah,
that is like
once.
once. I think that's a very and only for one strat.
Yeah,
Um, so like I totally agree with you where that is like a huge power problem throughout the entire game. That's not just Grey Knight specifically. Like I think you're right. I think free strats are pretty gnarly. Even with Vect being everywhere, except in Grey Knights, we have to bring a Calidus to do it. But I'm not angsty. You're angsty. Uh, um, yeah, I mean, my biggest problem, honestly, with the army is just punching up. Like, we have no access to rerolls that isn't a dreadnought that doesn't get access to
no,
our army rules anyway. So, like, I kind of want to see lethal hits on psychic weapons
yeah, it would be
because
nice. Lethal hits or sustained hits,
yeah, because again, we don't have rerolls. Like where
or
lethal
just
hits get abused is the rerolls, and we don't have any of that. So
no, or just give reload ones for psychic weapons,
yeah,
hits or wounds.
yeah. No, I think
You know,
I think that'd be awesome.
something like that could go a long way. Uh, like I said, I don't think it's a lot of change that needs to be done to make Grey Knights into a good place
Hmm.
where they're actually fun to play and feel like they have a chance into every army.
Yeah, I don't want to overtune him. Like I don't want to be the fifth
No,
edition Matt Ward insta kill Grey Knights that
no,
I'm
that
sure.
was very good times.
I bet it was, especially because rules didn't change fast back then. You
No,
could probably run that bullshit build for like 3 years or something. Anyway, that was a big question. Lots of folks wanted to ask you what they think, like what do you think about the balanced data slate. So um to summarize, it sounds like you don't want Grey Knights to be changed much at all. There's some data slate fixes you'd like to see, but then you'd really like to see some general rules fixes
yes,
across the entire game, not
yeah,
just individual factions.
no, and
um,
I also don't want to get my hopes up too
yeah,
much.
yeah, that's completely
So
fair. Yeah. But your fear is Terminators are going to go up back to like
yeah,
45 points, and
and like Librarian's gonna go up,
yeah. It's
and
our
then they're
only
gonna
anti-tank. You can't take him
yeah, and
away.
then no, but they're gonna drop Dread Knights another 10 points, uh, and we're
Yeah.
still not gonna use them,
Yep.
but they're gonna be cheap,
Sword still sucks.
and they're still gonna forget about the Dreadnought, and it's still gonna be same cost.
Yeah, man. I think it would be really cool if you had like if you got the teleport assault keyword. That'd change a lot. We'd be able to do a lot more with like bringing our old box knots places,
Yeah,
But yeah. Anyway, all right. Shall we get into your matchups? I know it's super late there. We're supposed to end in about 40 minutes, so we have
it's
a
fine. I can go longer.
okay. We have about 10 to 15 minutes per matchup. So I still have to make and eat dinner too, so I can't say that
Oh,
late either.
yeah.
But
Oh,
but yeah, let's fire away. So just to do a real quick overview, you went into sisters and then Drukhari and then sisters and then Aeldari and then Orcs. So you did dodge your Chaos Space Marines, but you did get paired up into the boogeyman of the meta. Um, and I'm curious. I'll ask more later. Obviously, like I struggle into Orcs hardcore with Grey Knights. I like the face because that means I'm gonna learn something. You
yeah.
just for anybody who's listening, Victor scrunched his face in like a confused look when I said that, so I'm into that. And then obviously Eldari, right? So let's start at the top. Game one, you played Sisters. This was kind of a blowout game, 91-50. How'd it
Yeah. So just start by saying this was a newer player, like he started in 10th.
Mm-hmm.
He had a really good understanding of his own army and his own rules,
Good.
which is amazing. I love when my opponents know their shit, because then I don't have to do it. And he had played against Grey Knights once before, so he understood the importance of screening.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, a scissors list with like 30 agroflagellants, and he also had Morvenval with the warsuits. But he made some mistakes. He took and reserved the warsuits. I think the idea was that he just wanted to get them into a good position. But what it actually meant was that I could just dodge them.
Yeah.
Because I just screened out in my turn 2, so they couldn't come in anywhere didn't want him to come, forcing him to try to come into a corner. And then I just missed it away, or sieged it away, was probably the thing with my paladins, and just left them there for the rest of the battle. And that was
So
like the unit I didn't want to face in combat.
I haven't played Wars. I haven't played Sister since ninth. Are the Warsuits like the boogeymen now? Are they just immeasurably good when you have miracle dice, or
I mean, they're not super good,
okay?
but they're definitely punch harder than their other units in the
Got it.
Grey Knights.
Okay.
It just was easier just not to play against them than to take the charge. Because it's still a lot of attacks with like reroll to hits or something
Got
and
it.
wounds from Morenval. But then Sisters have a real problem into 2-up saves with Armor Contempt.
Yeah.
Because a lot of their weapons are just AP1 or AP2, but then AP2 if you have cover and Armor Contempt, suddenly you're still in a 2-up.
Yeah.
So things like Exorcist and Castigators don't do that much.
Orcs
And the
too. Yeah.
Flagellants don't do anything. Um,
Really? Okay.
yeah, I mean, it's
Are
AP0.
are they? Oh, they're AP. Oh, are
Yeah.
they AP1? Or they're just
No,
a ton of
I think
attacks?
it's just a ton of attacks.
Okay. I'm
But
actually
a ton
gonna.
of attacks when
Let's.
I just roll 2-ups it's not
I'm
that
actually.
dangerous.
So I have Wahapedia up on the screen now with the Arco flagellants. So yeah, they're just 4 attacks each.
Yep.
AP0, 1 damage, strength 5.
Yep.
They're really cheap though. They're 13 points a model.
Yeah, I mean, they're
That's
also like pain and 2 wounds each, and
yeah.
like surprisingly tanky.
Feel pain 4+.
Yeah,
Oh my god.
they're a good unit, just not in the Grey Knights.
Yeah.
And another problem he did was he was really good at screening his backfield, but he still let me make good charges from the front.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something I'm basically doing across multiple games, but Drago is always multi-charging everything.
Oh yeah, that's right. You mentioned that in our little talk, but we didn't bring that up here. So in your list,
Oh,
you're multi-charging all the time.
oh yes. I mean, I have it's 11 models, so
Mm-hmm.
it's a very big footprint if I want to. And with the +3 to charge, it means I can most of the time, like I will probably just declare a charge on 2 or 3 units. We get a lot of these 9-inch measuring sticks,
Yeah,
and
yeah, we
just
do.
start placing the models where we want them. string them out as much as I can, make the charges. If I roll high, I will just string into another unit as well.
Mhm.
Or when I kill a unit, I will just pile in to something else. And that just helps us with, like, sure, I might not be able to kill all like 3 or 4 tanks I charge, but I will still keep them in combat. Or if they leave, they can't shoot,
Yep.
and I can miss the wave. Everyone leaves.
Yep. As soon as that last model falls back, you can boop.
Yep.
You can go away.
Yeah. So that's basically that game. It was just pretty simple. I moved forward and slowly pushed him back. Just dodged his threats and then played from one angle. Not much to say about this match. Super nice opponent. Fun game.
Okay. I mean,
Good start.
yeah. It's always good when, I hear people uplifting new players and not smacking them down. Not that I think that you would come on a podcast and then
No.
talk about, beating up new players, but you know what I mean.
No, and I always think it's fun facing newer players when you actually get to talk to them afterwards and like see that they want to learn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where like talk about what they did wrong or correct, so you can actually like give them something from the battle.
No, I've actually been super impressed by the Warhammer community. Like I've been playing about 4 years now, and I've only had one matchup that wasn't that fun because of my opponent. That's it, and I've played a lot of games, so um, that's a pretty good ratio.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, people are super like happy to actually teach and learn.
Uh-huh.
If you just ask, like you can always ask after a game, but could I done anything better?
Yeah,
And most people have something to say.
that's one of the best questions you could possibly ask. Yeah, yeah. All right, game two, Drukhari. So you now are the bottoms, the dregs of
Yeah.
the game are punching it out.
Yes.
All right.
So obviously, I felt super confident into this match, because
Yep.
one, it's Drukhari, which basically means it's just worse Eldar, and I'm good into Eldar, so I should be really good in Drukhari.
This game
Uh,
was, when I saw the points, I was like, oh, that's
yeah,
closer than I
I'm
would have
I'm gonna
expected.
get to why that's.
Yeah.
It might have been some overconfidence from me.
You
So
got slapped in the pee-pee.
the game started super well for me. Like it
Okay.
went exactly as I wanted. He got first turn, didn't do anything. Well, I mean, he moved up
Yeah.
to get on like the points. I think he scored like uh, 5 points or something on some secondary. My turn one comes, I get bring it down, and I get uh, tempting target. I just pick up my models and place them down, so my paladins can shoot into a. Is it a raider?
Yeah.
Yeah, the transport.
Their boats.
Yeah,
Yeah.
into a
There's the
boat.
ones with the one gun are raiders, and the ones with
Yeah,
3 guns are
the raider.
ravagers.
So the transport.
Yeah.
Thinking I could easily kill that for bring it down. Totally whiffed. Think I did 2 wounds. But I managed to charge it instead.
Okay.
Charged it, killed it, easy. I also managed to charge on the other side with my 5-man Terminators into his Kronos. And together with like Smite, I killed. No, it's Talos. I killed both of them.
How far
And
up did he move?
I mean, I mean, I picked him up at the end of his turn and
Oh, I'm
brought them 9
sorry.
inches away.
Okay. I'm
So
sorry.
it was 2 19 charges.
For some
that I
reason, I
made.
still thought this was turn one. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean it is turn 1, but it's my turn.
Oh right,
He went
yeah,
first.
you pick up at the end of his turn.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I
I
don't
just
even
placed
have an
my
excuse. Okay, I
no. I
don't
just
have
placed
an
my
excuse.
model 9 inches away.
Yeah, got it. Okay.
Made 2 charges.
Mhm.
Got 7 points on bring it down turn 1, plus the tempting targets, plus kill and kill more. Because this was purge the foe.
Okay.
So kill more, hold more.
Yep.
So basically the best turn 1 I could have had. His turn 2, he whiffs everything. He shoots like all his Dark Lances and his Void Raven Bomber and kills 1 Terminator.
Which you
Uh,
bring back immediately.
yeah, I feel super good. He of course charges the Terminus as well with his Chronoses and Taloses and kills everyone but 1, which is the Apothecary. So I still get to bring back. And in my turn 2, I bring down Drago and I kill a lot of units. I feel super good. I have Drago and his 10 Terminates on 1 objective. I have Paladins on the middle objective. And on the top No Man's Land objective, I have a 5-man Terminator squad and now a 2-man Terminator squad. And then his turn 3 comes, and he kills 15 Terminators in shooting somehow. I didn't even think he had that many shots, but apparently he had. Just one of those turns where he
Dark
hits with
Lances, man.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, hits
Dark
with
Lances,
everything,
man,
moves with
like
everything. I don't take any
I,
4-up saves.
yeah, I can't tell you how many Terminators I've lost to Dark Lances.
Yeah,
Like
and here, like, I could have missed it away with Drago
but
and
you
saved
didn't.
those 10 Terminators.
Mm-hmm.
I just made the like calculations that they would survive and hold the point.
Yeah. I mean,
Uh, now, Drago did survive, so he
and
did
now he's
still hold
all
the point.
alone.
Yeah. But suddenly I had lost. I just had my paladins, Drago, like my strike squads, and my henchmen left.
Yeah, I mean, you only have 7 units. So,
Yeah.
like, if you lose your 10-man Terminator brick, you technically still have 7 units still, but.
Yeah. But my paladins could just stand on the middle objective and kill things close to that the entire game. Because he never procced Cyril on them. Because he was afraid that if he procced it, I will just get into his backline and
Okay.
kill things.
I love that. I love that it makes them have to make decisions like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And then Drago just ran around on his own and killed things. Also just held his objective.
I know
So I still won the game, but because I lost so many units, he could just score back up. Like, he actually got killed more a turn, which is not something you should get against Grey Knights.
Oh man, I'm sorry. That is kind of
You know,
funny though.
yeah.
Like it's just the
But that
way
was just me being stupid. I just looked at the game at his turn 3 and said, this game is over. Let's just have fun. Now, granted, it was over. I still won.
Yeah.
But
That's
had it
fat.
been a team event or something, I should definitely have missed it and played for points.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting. How the bottom two, or not the bottom two, but two armies from the a collection of the worst from a scoring perspective in the meta right now are duking it out, and it's a dice game.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of games where like in ninth where like my Grandmaster Dread Knight with like Demon Slayer, so like 7 attacks, the hammer, you know, runs in and like hits 5 times, and then rolls 4 ones to wound, and you're like, well,
Yeah.
the math was that unit died, but now it didn't. So yeah, it is a dice game. The dice giveth and the dice taketh away.
Yeah. I mean, that's you always feel it with these elite armies
Yeah.
where the dice goes wrong. It goes super wrong.
All right, so Drukhari was fun, but
Yep.
not a lot of, other than a few bad rolls, a few.
Yeah.
Nothing really to report there. It is good to learn from your mistakes though, like knowing that you made that really bad call. Overconfidence is what's the quote
Yeah.
from, man, overconfidence is anyway. I'll think about it at 3 a.m. today, I'm sure,
Mhm.
but yeah. Oh, it's a slow and insidious killer. That's what it is. Anyway, so now you went into Sisters again. So you
Yes.
played three games the first day and 2 the second game.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you did a sister sandwich.
Yeah. And this was probably a more medalist and
Mm-hmm.
also a better player. Uh, so he had a ton of vehicles. I think he had 6 transports and like 3 castigators or something like that.
That's awesome.
Uh,
What a cool
yeah.
army. That's awesome.
Uh, which I wasn't super excited about when I saw the list,
Mm-hmm.
because transports are not fun to deal with. Uh, but the goal for Grey Knights when it comes to transport is just force them out of the transports, kill the things inside, and ignore the transports. That's usually what I do. Or just charge every transport at the same time and hope for the best. Uh, so this was another game of Drago just multi-charging everything. I think he was always in combat with at least 3 things from turn 2 onwards. He just went around and hit rhinos on the head,
That's
like slowly
amazing.
killing them, and then just moving on to the next one, and then killing them, moving on to the next one,
But it's
and then
also
just
keeping them
piling
alive,
in into more. Yeah.
right? Like you can't shoot him, or I mean, you can, but yeah.
And here, uh, my opponent overcommitted to a a backfield drop I did. Dropped in 5 Terminates in the back just to get like teleport home or something.
Mm-hmm.
And he saw that as an opportunity to kill them, which he could. He had his entire army there, but that also meant that he basically fell back to kill my unit in the back. So he just gave up a ton of space in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and yes,
Which,
my Terminators died, but I traded them for board control, which is fine.
yeah.
And it's also a game where I used Mist aggressively a lot, because that's
Yeah.
something I don't think uh, a lot of people know about. Like, especially opponents. Uh, Everyone just assumes Mist is the thing where you just remove your models,
Mm-hmm.
but you can also do the 6-inch move with Mist.
Yes. Yeah, that's actually one of the most clutch parts. Like I'm sure you're aware of all the drama surrounding the Warhammer World Championship and a very
Yeah.
similar stratagem.
Yes.
So, yeah.
No, so in this game I used Mist just for the 6-inch moves aggressively a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, is to, if Drago was not in combat, I used the 6-inch move to just pull him up closer to the enemy instead of falling back.
Does the stratagem say 6 inches, or is it up to the movement characteristic of the? I'm not trying to gotcha you. I'm actually curious. It says no. It may make a normal move of up to 6 inches. Okay.
Yeah. Um, so it's a
Got it.
great strat for that as well.
Yeah, that's awesome.
To basically just get more movement in your opponent's turn.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you don't feel like he can kill you. Because sometimes your opponent will be like, they will move a unit. I'm like, do you want a mist? Hoping that you will remove them.
Yeah,
Like, no. Or like, yeah, I will mist, but I
and
will
I'll
just
just
mist
move.
onto the objective.
Yeah. Yep. That's huge. Also, like missing them away from like a critical charge that your opponent wants to make, and so like maybe it was a 5-inch charge. Well, now it's an
Yeah.
11-inch charge. So good luck. Um, or you like you can because the miss move happens in the movement phase. You could take like a move of if it's a 7-inch charge, you move away, you can actually make that an undeclarable charge. Like
Yeah.
they can't declare it at all. So
No.
there's a lot
No,
of
I mean,
cool stuff that you can do
yeah.
with that strat that isn't just grabbing them. Yeah.
No. But I mean, the best thing, the best feeling is like when you take them up and then just rapidly gears them right back out.
Yeah, I've heard about that too. It's 2 CP though, and we're always
Yeah,
CP starved, man.
it is, but it also guarantees your Terminators a 4-inch charge instead of a 9-inch. And
Yeah.
that's pretty big. Because then you probably don't have to spend the CP to CP reroll that charge instead.
Rapid. Yeah. That's
So you just,
really
yeah, rapid
movement
ingress them 9-inch
shenanigans.
away and then you just move up. It is costly, and we are CP starved as it is. But every time I get to do it, I feel
It
so good
feels
about it.
it feels good, yeah. Because the next turn, like it's why like sigil is so good.
Yeah.
In ninth, it was a big deal. You stick it on the Grandmaster Dread Knight. He jumps away. Hopefully, they've left like a spot open on their side of the board, and then they go, oh shit! And the next turn, they can't shoot you. They can't charge you. Whatever. The next turn, now this Grandmaster is like surprise. 9-inch move, all that stuff. Yeah. So it's the same thing. It's just costing us more CP instead of points. But yeah, and
Exactly.
then I mean, you could do it with sigil. You could still do that like same
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you still threaten to do it every game.
Yeah.
Like,
That's great.
pose the palace aggressively, and then just, like, I don't know, mental warfare is a thing in Warhammer. Just, like, tell your opponent, do you want to shoot them? Like, I have sigil.
Yeah.
Like, oh, maybe I don't want to shoot them.
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
It's in ninth that was one of the fun like my other army is Death Watch, and that was another really fun thing with that army is like people would say like, can this unit attack or like advance in charge? And I'd say, well, it can. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean I'm gonna spend the CP to do it or
No.
whatever later, but like, yes, it technically can. And they're like, oh, and they're thinking about it, like, well,
Yeah. Same
like,
thing with like Overwatch.
yeah,
Like, oh, I could Overwatch here. Or
yeah,
when you're like thinking out loud, like, oh, if I move here, you're gonna Overwatch me.
yeah,
Ooh, do I want to do that?
yeah,
And there's actually like, oh, do I want to Overwatch here?
yeah.
You're
It
like
is.
hoping they will.
There are mind games. That's a totally legitimate part of the game. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, but back to the match. Basically, same thing as with the other Sisters match. Sisters just have a hard time killing
2-up saves.
two
Yeah.
ups. Yeah.
As long as you don't roll once.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I know. I
You
yeah.
can just roll 3 once when the Cascadator shoots and suddenly you lost 3 guys.
Yeah.
Can happen. Hopefully it doesn't.
I love the idea of you just playing like Rhino Whack-a-Mole though. Like this is
Yeah.
Kaldor Drago, the supreme grandmaster of like the Imperium's best like psyker hunters, like demon hunters, and he's just pulverizing rhinos.
Yeah, I don't think he punched anything else than Rhinos that game.
That's hilarious. But like, you know, you're in their lines, you're on their like side of the board, you're tough, they can't really remove you. That's hilarious, you know? And you're
Well,
using the rules to make sure that they're staying safe by like engaging with the like if you're gonna bring seven transports, I can use them against you, right? Like the old drop pod tricks,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah, and then it's just you keep them off the primaries and you win.
Again, by
Uh,
flooding it with OC.
yeah, just
Yeah.
flood with OC and kill anything that comes on it. Because yes, Grey Knights are not the killest army. They're super good at killing toughness 3 models in
Yes,
the
we
power
are.
armor. That's
Yeah.
not a problem.
Stormbolters feel really good into T3.
Yeah,
Stormbolters feel
it
real
feels
bad into
amazing.
T5. All right. So that ends day one. Day two, you get paired into. Oh, that was another game where you went 85 to 55.
Yeah.
So closer than your other sister's game, but not that much closer. Your next game was a lot closer though.
Yeah.
Eldari 74 to 64. So that's like one good turn of secondaries away from them winning versus you. So how did this one go?
Uh, so this was against a really good player, member of Team Norway. He's not normally an Elder player, but he had to play it for a Teams event.
Okay.
Uh,
So he's like, I feel comfortable with this. I'll just roll with this.
yeah,
Got it.
and he of course did not want to face me, uh, because this is probably Grey Knight's best matchup of the top. Like I still think we're better into bottom tier armies, of course, but
Mm-hmm.
uh, every Eldar should fear Grey Knights.
Yeah, actually, going back to our previous discussion, like briefly about Jack Harpster, um, in the recent, I think it's the most recent still, meta ranking video that they do over on the Art of War channel, Jack goes into like detail in the Grey Knights portion about why he loves the army so much and why he thinks that if you know what you're doing, you win against Eldar 60% of the time. Like it's a really favorable match for Grey Knights.
I think
And
it's
this is
higher.
well, this is Jack, right? So Jack's
Yeah,
playing really good Eldari players, right? He's not playing at your local gaming store. Like if you understand your army, you should be pulverizing Eldar the majority of the time, like in the mid tables or whatever, right? Like you're helping to drag them out of those top placements because you're
yeah, yeah. I mean, Grey Knights are there to just ruin the Eldar chances of winning.
yeah. Anyway, I digress. Please carry on.
Yeah. So what basically happened this game is he had I don't know if it was lucky card draw or not, because he basically got capture enemy outpost uh, like really early,
Uh huh.
uh, together with behind enemy lines,
Ooh.
uh, and he could. His play was that he could just bank on killing my 5-man, strike marines with his 3 night spinners, turn one, and then just moving the incarn on the objective,
Mm-hmm.
and suddenly he would have gotten like 11 points turn one, and he could move a unit of swooping hawks into backline as well, and suddenly it was up 13 points. Uh, Now, of course, this is night spirit shooting. He could roll sixes. He could not roll sixes. Uh, but he forced me to use sigil to just put my paladins on my home objective, so that he could not do that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
which is not what I wanted.
No.
Uh, but I had to do it because I couldn't give up that many points turn one.
Yeah.
So basically, he shot just with one night spinner into my paladins, and I said, "Yeah, I will sigil." Like we both knew what would happen.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like when you saw him draw those two, you're like, oh
Yeah,
no.
and like he still wanted it to happen because it's really good to get my paladins. They were on objective
Yeah.
because I had gone first, so I had just put them on objective.
Mhm.
And it was the what's it called, the mission where you need characters on objectives.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah. The ritual, I think it is.
yeah, the ritual. Yeah,
Yeah.
so you get points from having characters on objectives.
Yeah.
Uh, so I just set up so I would get some nice points, and then I had to sigil away onto my home objective, which you do not get points from the character on.
Uh,
It felt bad. And then he also did the regular night spinner things and just reduce my movement, meaning I could.
Not on your Grandmaster's unit, though.
No,
No.
nope. But on my other Terminator
Yeah.
unit,
Yeah.
meaning I could not reach the other objective with it. And here this is the importance of pre-measuring. I could have reached that objective if I had pre-measured it, because I could have placed myself closest to the wall and then been within 3 inches, so I could just have touched it.
Mm-hmm.
Where I just basically said, this is good enough. And then I was 2.9 inches away, and suddenly I was not on the objective when I got my reduced movement.
Yeah, and if I remember right, the Night Spinner also makes it so if you're hit by it, it's like the Barbagance where it's -2 movement, but then it also, you can advance, right?
Yeah, you can't advance.
Yeah.
So I couldn't auto advance with them either. And it was a big deal. And then I had to choose to either try a charge onto his what was it, Whooping Hawks, I think, that was on that objective, on the other edge of the objective. So it would have been just a 6-inch charge. But it was also turn 2 where I dropped in Drago, so I knew I wanted my CP reroll for Drago 6-inch charge.
Yep.
Or one of the other charges I was going to make.
Yeah. Oh, Drago. Never change.
Yeah. So then I decided it's easier to just shoot the Swoop Mohawks away than to try and charge them, because if I fail the charge, he gets the points for holding the objective, and I don't get any. If I kill them, neither of us will get the objective, but I will still kill a piece. So that kept my scoring down. I did make the Drago charge.
Yay!
Into his into Fuegan and the Brave cards to score Assassinate.
So, in this kind of situation, are you like you would charge with Drago first because he has a better odds of making the charge? Then you could save your CP if you didn't need it for Drago's unit. So is that what you did? Like Drago made the charge and you're happy, hooray, and then you had it to use it on the other unit?
No, I mean Drago failed the charge on his CP real.
Okay,
okay.
Of
course.
Okay.
He never makes his charge first try.
You said he made it, so I was like, okay, yeah. Eventually he made it. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was a tense moment when I rolled that second charge.
Dude.
But yeah,
every
he
time,
made the charge.
Man. He's so lazy when he first comes out of the warp, you
know. And then he had misplaced his Spirit Seer, so I could precision him with Drago. So I spent my last CP on that and killed the Spirit Seer, which meant no more resting Brave cards and hitting on force instead of freeze. So then I was basically just happy I killed some Wraith guards, but he of course fell back with them.
All right. So by that you mean like Drago was able to use precision and kill him, or?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I used a CP to give the precision strat,
Yeah. What is that? What's that?
heroic challenge,
That's
or
it.
I don't
Yeah.
know,
There it is.
something like that.
Got it.
Because Spirit Series is only 3 wounds, and Drago is 3
Damage
damage.
3. Yeah,
Yeah.
baby.
And with 6 attacks, it's enough attacks that he
And
can't
wounding on
just.
2s.
Yeah, hitting on 2s, wounding on 2s.
Yeah.
It's hard for him to fate dice that away.
Mm-hmm.
And that was huge.
That's a good tip, man. That's a really good tip. I think
Yeah,
people
precision
forget
is
about heroic
great.
challenge, you know. Like,
Yeah.
we have far fewer strats in 10th than we had in 9th, but that still means that you have to understand the ones you have and use them like appropriately, you know. I would never have thought to do that. That's an amazing idea.
Yeah. Just some units are super powered by their characters.
Yeah.
So if you can kill them, uh,
Yeah.
if you're in an easy way,
Hmm.
like I would not try this if it was just a librarian hitting him,
Sure. Yeah, yeah, of
because then
course.
it's not
Right.
enough attacks,
Yeah.
and he can just fate die it, and
Yeah.
not gonna work.
But like
Uh,
Voldis, Drago could definitely do it. Like he's,
yeah,
Crow could do it. Yeah. I
yeah,
think
and
Crow
Crow has
has
precision
precision
as yeah,
anyway. Yeah. Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
his precision devastating wounds, so he's
Yeah.
actually really good at killing those things.
Yeah.
Same when you're facing Necrons, also really good to kill the lords.
Oh man,
Uh,
Crons.
and yeah, so but then he was good at scoring points. He has a lot of secondary units like triple swooping hawks. You had Fuegan, who stands back up. Uh, you had shadow specters, warp spiders. So I couldn't stop him from scoring secondary points.
Hmm.
Not the early turns, at least. But every time he scored secondary points with those units, I would kill them
Yeah. I mean,
to prevent them from
that,
doing others.
that's one thing that's good. Like swooping hawks are all T3s, so like our stormbolters aren't worthless. You know, like
No,
what
and
night spinners are. Oh, they're T9 because
yeah,
they're
night spinners are a
because
bit
they're an
rough.
actual like
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't think I killed a single night spinner. Didn't really try.
Yeah.
They were just always doing things. And then in the end, uh, I once again now in this tournament points didn't really matter. It was a pretty low tiebreaker, like your battle points.
Oh, okay. Oh, I
Uh,
see. All right.
yeah, of course they matter for who's winning,
Yeah.
uh, but winning with 1 point or winning with 50 points doesn't really matter.
Okay. So you guys did
Uh,
like straight wins for the most part, with
yeah,
like points
wins
being
first, and
like a
then I
third.
think was
Yeah,
yeah,
like
like
run
strength of
of show
schedule
is
or
usually. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
yeah, or like path to victory and stuff like that.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
Uh, but the last turn, I basically just forgot to console that back on the objective, meaning that he could just advance an night spinner on the objective and get tempting, and also like cleanse. So we had a really good last turn.
Yeah.
Uh, it
Ooh.
not good enough to catch up, but it's also one of the things like I could have prevented that. Like yeah, you
Yeah.
could. Yeah, okay.
I mean, those like if you give your opponent 2 or 3 points, you're like, don't do that again. Don't do that again. When you give them
Yeah.
10 points, you're like, oh my god, right? Like that was a huge mistake. Because there are,
Uh,
because like in 9th, you'd see a lot of games where like they were perfect games. In 10th, you don't see perfect games very often because most people are playing tactical, and to get a perfect game now, you have to get like a really good draw on turn one and pull it off, like what your Eldari opponent got,
Yeah.
but you stopped him from pulling it off, right? So it's so like 10 points now isn't 10% of the game. It could be substantially more than that, you know. So yeah.
Yeah. But it's once again just good learning experience.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Yeah,
be better with
absolutely.
your. What I took away from that game is just pre-measure more and make sure to consolidate when you
Yeah.
can. Not
um.
just kill your opponent and be like, it's fine, you go.
All right, so on to orcs. This one I am particularly interested in. I
Yeah.
will remind everybody and ourselves that we are now over 2 hours. So just 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 pointing it out. That's all.
Yes, so going into this round, there were only me and the orc player who were 4-0 at that point.
Mm. So you knew who you were gonna
Because
play.
because the other undefeated players they drew against each other, uh, and that was like a perfect draw they got. So then I knew I would be
Oh,
facing orcs.
got it. Okay, all right.
Uh,
Wow, like,
Otherwise, I would have been facing orcs or world eaters.
do you mean by perfect draw they both got 100 points, or do
No,
you
I
mean
mean they
like
got the exact same.
okay, like 72 to 72 or something?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
because we didn't use WTC scoring,
Right.
so the only way to get a draw was if you get exact same score.
Okay. Yeah, it's not differential scoring. It's
No,
yeah. Gotcha. Okay.
so it was very unlikely, uh, but that was good for me because this was the orc list I want to face the most.
Okay.
I think World Eaters is a very swingy matchup,
Mm-hmm.
just by the nature of being World Eaters.
Yeah, I
Uh,
dig that.
and the other orc list and orc player was better. So they was better suited for me. And this list was uh, basically just it had 4 trucks, I think, and then like beast bosses with beast naga boys in the trucks, knobs with a war boss in a truck. He had Badruk and Flash Kits in a truck, and then he had the Squig Hog Boys with boss and the big
Oh,
Squig guy.
interesting. He also took depth coptas. That's cool. You don't
Uh,
you don't
no, Depth
see that
Combat
a
was
lot.
the other guy.
Oh, it was? Oh, okay. My bad.
Yeah, that was Jonathan, not my opponent.
Ah.
My opponent had War Bikes and Storm Boys instead. Otherwise, it's the same list as Jonathan's.
Ah, okay. Let me pull up the right. Oh, Casper.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, okay. Beast Boss,
Uh,
Badrick, Mazrog, of course, Knob on
yeah.
Smasher Squid, War Boss, Beast Naga Boys, Truck, Flash Kits, Gretchen, Knob, Squig Hog Boys, Storm Boys, War Bikers. That is so many models.
Yeah. So many models, so many units. Uh, Nothing like super out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
Uh, and it was on the God, what is it called? The one where you build objectives. The ritual. So
Oh, right.
you do an action to make an objective,
Yeah, that's right.
and I felt mission wise that was good for him because he has a lot of units to just make objectives off in a corner
Yep.
and hide
This
them
is
with his
yep.
trucks.
This is one of the
Uh,
things that it makes orcs tough for me specifically. It's just like there's so many units, so they can
yeah,
screen out real well, and yeah. Anyway,
and the ritual always becomes like a slugfest in the middle, which is usually not where Grey Knights want to be.
At least it's not deploy servo skulls with hidden supplies. So there are 4
Yeah,
in
but
the middle.
that's
That's a meme pick, but still.
yeah.
Anyway,
Deploy should not be an objective on a tournament.
that's fair. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, so I was mission-wise, I was not happy, but matchup-wise, I'm totally fine with going into Orcs because I think Orcs has the exact same problems as Sisters. They just can't kill Terminators with armor contempt.
Mm.
And I put that to the test this game by going aggressive with my Paladins. I had first turn, and first turn was me doing nothing as normal. And he moved up, just took space in the middle. We all both built an objective on each side for fun. And then my turn 2, I just took my Paladins and placed them in his deployment, basically. Got something, and then I said, do your worst. He called Wog as well. And I also had to drop a unit in his backline for
Behind
enemy lines, I think it was. So I killed a unit of war bikes and took behind enemy lines with a 5-man, and the paladins just stood there. His turn, he then got everything out of the trucks and wanted to punch my paladins. And he like fully surrounded them. It was more than I thought he would be able to get in, but he rolled some good charges. So it was the Nob unit, it was a Beast Naga Boys unit, and it was the Flash Kits that all got into combat. Of course, he didn't shoot me.
Yeah,
he was about to, but I reminded him not to do that. So they all charged. His Squig Hog boys came in from reserve and charged my 5-man Terminators. That was a bit, that was 9 in charge. I hoped he would have failed that one.
Yeah.
He didn't.
God, Squig Hog boys are so good.
Yeah. And I knew I would have to use my R contempt on the paladins. That's why I wanted the Squig Hogs to fail.
Yeah.
Because that meant Squig Hogs could just kill my Terminators.
Yeah. They're so good.
Yeah. But in the paladin combat, he had 33 mods or something with a shit ton of attacks. I popped armor contempt and he killed 5 paladins. And I punched back and killed like 10 orcs maybe. Then Drago came down and cleaned up everything.
Cleaned up everything? Oh, everything off of the paladins, or just?
Yeah, I mean those 3 units
together
with paladins, all gone.
Wow, impressive.
And then he basically just didn't have any dangerous things left. Because on the other side of the board, my Terminator had killed off his. Yeah, he had the hogs, but they were in a corner in his deployment.
Okay.
With like awkward terrain placement to get around. So I wasn't really worried about them. Because it was in the middle that the fighting was actually happening, because it's a ritual. Meaning he just had like trucks going around making objectives. So
it's true though. They could do all that. Like there's no.
But then I just started deep striking 3 inches away from him and stealing those objectives.
Yeah, that's
only to deny him primary. Because on my side of the board, I had my strike marines just sticking everything.
Yep. That is okay.
And like he sent his storm boys 1 turn to destroy it, but then I killed them and sticked everything again. And then I set up bike squad, and then I killed them and sticked everything again.
How was your
Uh,
opponent feeling? Like, it sounds like you
I,
just like it sounds like you got a little lucky on some rolls, but for the most part, like you were just completely outplaying him. At the
yeah,
top table of a tournament. Like, was it? I mean, I'm not trying to downplay your win here, but it feels like you were in complete control. And is that
yeah, yeah. I mean, I
okay?
felt I had a good game plan, and I went with it, and it worked.
Okay.
Uh, I just didn't think he could kill me. Uh, like I gave him the paladins as a try,
Yeah.
and he couldn't kill him.
-1 to wound
Yeah,
changes the math a lot for the old orcs.
yeah. -1 to wound and armor contempt is just really good when most of his attacks
Yeah.
are AP1.
I went into one of my friends who plays orcs with a 10-man paladin squad, but I had him being led by Voldus, so they were -1 to hit and -1 to wound, and they tied up like a third of his army for like 3 turns. It was
Yeah,
wild. Because again, with true silver armor, most of their melee is AP1, so you just force them onto 2-up saves, and at -1 to wound and -1 to hit is just awful. Like, hard for them to chew through that. So
yeah. So most of the game was I basically just decided to spend the first turns killing him, and then catching up in points.
mm-hmm. Okay.
So I let him score in the beginning,
Was
knowing that
was
he
that
would
your
not be able to score later.
was that your game plan, or was that
Yeah,
like, okay, I pulled some cards that let me continue to do my game plan, right? Like, if you had, I guess you can't get defense stronghold turn 1, but like if you had pulled like less aggressive cards than behind enemy lines, right? Would you have stuck with that game plan, or would you have altered it to try to score anyway? Or would you have just been like, I'm gonna discard one of these for 1 CP anyway,
yeah,
so I'm just gonna go for it? Okay. Okay.
yeah. I just wanted to remove his units, make
Absolutely.
sure they were out of the trucks and kill them, and then just deal with the trucks by not dealing with them. I never killed a truck that game.
You just killed a whole bunch of orcs and left their trucks.
Yeah, I just killed all the orcs, left their
that's
trucks, left their Gretchens,
that's really funny.
and then I just controlled the center and won.
Nice. That's amazing, man. Like, I don't feel like I've ever been in control in a game against orcs since their codex dropped in ninth.
I mean, they're a
like,
dangerous army.
yeah. Like before that, I felt okay, but as soon as they got that codex in ninth, I don't even know.
I mean, you can definitely play that in a different way, where you just when they pop wog, you just say okay, and then you don't play that turn.
Yeah, you just
I
let
was
them have
considering
whatever.
that,
Yeah.
because of course he wogs, I can just miss the way,
Yeah.
uh, and then he just spends his wog doing nothing.
And WoW lasts for 2 turns now?
No, it's just your turn.
Oh, it's
Like
just
it's
one
just
turn.
one. Yeah, it's just one turn.
Oh, I
So
thought it was 2 turns in ninth, and it got like
yeah,
progressively worse,
yeah,
right? It was like
yeah.
really good the turn they called it, and then it was like not as good the next turn. Okay. All right, that's good to know. Well,
No, but I decided that it was better to just get on with it and kill him.
yeah, that's funny. I mean, strength 6 is pretty good into T5, so
Yeah. Then
um,
once again, the paladin with the grandmasters, uh, a great into the knobs
yeah,
because they ignore the -1 to wound.
yep, yeah. He had a lot of war bosses with knobs, so and all
Yeah,
those war bosses give their entire unit -1 to wound. Like, it just turns them into paladins.
yeah.
Not as good paladins, obviously, but
No,
also a lot less
a bit
expensive.
less tanky.
Yeah, but a lot less expensive too, so you can have a
Yeah.
lot more of them. Well, we are 15 minutes over, so Victor, I'm gonna give you a chance to plug some stuff while I give everybody else one last chance to ask you some questions. Thank you very much. It is after 3 a.m. where you're at, so I don't want to hold you too long. And I can hear a baby crying, and I need to make dinner, so I can't be here too much longer either.
No.
But plug what you want to, Victor, please.
Yeah, don't really have much to plug. I guess the only thing, follow Team Norway. It's a good bunch of dudes.
Yep.
Uh, so guess go over to
It
their Facebook page and give them a follow.
There it is. I will do that right now,
Hopefully
actually.
with them
Boop.
to Belgium next year. So
Sweet, man. I gave him a like.
yeah,
There you go.
perfect. And this was really fun.
Yeah, man. I
It's
just
always good to talk about something you like.
yeah, I wish we had more time, but like for those of you that aren't in this space who don't do this for a hobby, when you're trying to plan out time with somebody on the other side of the planet, it gets really complicated with time zones and daylight savings time because America's backwards. Um, like makes things way more complicated than you think that they really ought to be. But thank you, Victor, for staying up so late, well into your morning. I hope you get some sleep. I hope you're not just powered by coffee um, tomorrow. And for everybody who joined, thank you. For everybody who gave questions, doubly thank you. That's why I decided to start doing these live instead of recording them and then editing them, because it's better when I have audience engagement. So thank you very much. If you haven't checked it out yet, there's a very active Grey Knight Discord. There's a link down below. I also play Deathwatch. There's a link to their Discord and then mine as well. We're pretty small, but we're pretty friendly. So come check us out. And don't forget to call your mother.